Hello, welcome to today's American Flyer Trains. This video and others that will follow will focus on a customer-owned 3778 Texas and Pacific twin GP-7 unit pair made during 1956 and 1957. The build date on the dummy A unit is March 1957. There was no build date stamp on the interior of the power unit number 378. These are numbered number 377 for the dummy, 378 for the power. It has the usual 4-position reverse unit, the double worm drive power truck in the power unit. The dummy A unit, to my surprise, which is 377, has diesel roar and a horn, and of course both units have the usual illumination that we've grown accustomed to in these GP7s, headlights at both ends, and then the illuminated number boards at both ends, and even a little bit of light cast inside of the cab, which makes it look pretty good. Of course, knuckle couplers are in use. Rebuild of the dummy number 377 unit is complete. No surprises, but just a few new things to work around, and that was the diesel roar, which is attached right here, and then of course the horn mechanism. So there wasn't anything unusual, but just those two items to work around as the trucks were cleaned and the interior was cleaned up, as well as the power wheels, which are all the wheels, and then the slide contacts. A little bit of rust dominated some of these trucks, including the slide contacts, the shoes, and the shoe boxes. So there's a little bit of tedious work that had to be accomplished, but that is all finished. A good bit of the work in rebuilding the power unit, number 378, is finished, such as the chassis, the reverse unit, and of course the surface of the chassis. The reverse unit didn't offer any work that was in addition to what I would expect on this. Just a lot of carbon buildup on the drum, and of course the fingers had to be polished. They were carefully inspected. Neither fingerboard had fingers with holes in it. I retensioned the fingers and repositioned them. And then, of course, I lubricated the interior of the reverse unit with CRC 226. We'll see it for a few seconds in a future video when we start testing this. The reverse unit had a little bit of rust, probably more than a little bit, so it required a good bit of tedious work to eradicate that rust and then get it all clean. The truck assemblies were removed. They required a little bit more work than usual, in that the shoes and the shoe boxes were rusted on the exterior and interior for both. So I had to remove the shoes and the springs. One of the springs was badly corroded. I don't know from what substance or source, but had kind of the corrosion on it you kind of expect from a leaky battery. But they're both cleaned and polished on the interior and the exterior, as well as the shoes. I'm going to have to probably reinforce these a little bit with their connection to the side frame using JB Weld, because they underwent a good bit of rough treatment to get the shoes out and to do all the cleaning. One of them is just wobbly, just a tiny bit. The other one seems to be pretty fixed and sound. But I'm going to make sure by putting a little JB Weld down the sides on either of them to cover up that tab, just to make sure. Nothing unusual with the rebuild of the motor and the armature. They each had the usual coating of grease, carbon dust, oil. They had a little bit of hairs and fibers and dust in them. The usual thing. I carefully inspected both of the thrust plates at both ends, and they had small dimples in them, but I didn't see any reason to replace them. And you'll notice the thrust is just a little bit, which is probably very satisfactory. Now, one of the things I have not done yet is to lubricate the shaft where the bearings are. I'll do that prior to the final assembly using a Q-tip and, of course, some gear oil. The commutator was thoroughly cleaned. It had, as as black and as much carbon dust in the slots as I've ever seen in any American Flyer commutator, diesel or steam. But they were easily cleaned with a toothpick soaked in alcohol, wetted or moistened with alcohol, so that was pretty easy to get out. I also removed the old pull-mores and replaced them with the slotted pull-mores, which I've had a lot of success with. The other axle was thoroughly polished, as well as this one, as well as the contact wheels. The bushings for these axles seem to be in reasonably good shape. There is a little bit of movement, but not as drastic as I have seen on some other locomotives, so I expect some good performance. And then there is ease of movement, even prior to adding the grease for the gears and anything else. So it should be ready to go and ready for final assembly.